And for women, it takes them a lot longer to recover than for men. And something that I was told was like, yeah, it could take anywhere from 3 months to 10 years.
The AllStar app, the #1 app in the business. UFC, Bellator, One Championship, PFL, and more. Get the app right now. Link in description. March 18th, UFC 286, London. You're going to return back to competition. What are the emotions like for you heading into a fight week? Something that you're familiar with, but it's been a long time, 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, it has been a very long time. I'm very excited about it being in the O2 just because I have been to the O2 and been to London 800 times. I've seen like Cage Warriors events, or there's always an event going around in London, and if you live in the UK, you're going to find yourself in London several times a year. So it's like I've stayed in that Canary Wharf area numerous times, and it's something that, I mean, if you're into visualization, that's as good as it gets. uh, which it makes me very excited to fight, which a place which is now home, you know.
Yeah, that's great. Like how it worked out that way for you, to
Mm.
return after, so much time off to be fighting very, very close to home. Your new home, so to say.
Yeah, my new home, which is the most stable home I've had since I was 16. It's nice.
Yeah. That's another thing is, you've been a globetrotter for so many years, and you've kind of planted your flag in the UK. How has that been for you the last couple of years?
It's been amazing. I I really do appreciate all the experience I've been able to get traveling and training in different places, but it's kind of difficult to stitch things together when you do that because everybody's trying to teach you something else and sometimes tell you that what you learned somewhere else is wrong. So you have to relearn not only a lot of technical things, but you also have to relearn things about living, which you wouldn't normally have to think about. Like imagine going into a supermarket and not really knowing how to pick anything out or trying to translate what anything is, and that was such a thought every single day. It's not only it wasn't only the fighting, it was learning new things, it was the learning how to live in a different country, and it all has taught me a lot, but I felt like it was maybe a bit before. I'm a bit late to the party, but it's a long time coming for me to settle down and really put everything together and kind of shave off the things I don't need and put together the things that I do.
Do you feel the most comfortable you felt in your career right now?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. I look back at stuff that I've done and I'm like, oh my goodness. Girl, what are you doing? Oh no. But
Yeah.
you got to make those mistakes sometimes in order to not only to evolve but also to appreciate how far you've come.
Mm, for sure. Let's rewind, back to 2020 after your last fight against Bia
Mhm.
Malecki. It was the event, the UFC, the last UFC event before the pandemic hit and shut everything down, which is pretty insane. Where was your mind at with your MMA career after that fight?
Honestly, well, if you notice that there was a different weight class, so I was already having a lot of issues, um, but I didn't really know how to approach them. Another issue of traveling different countries, and you don't have a stable doctor that checks how you are, every so often, and you're kind of on your own on a lot of things. And I was on my own, and I didn't really understand what was going on, and I already had two canceled bouts, so I'm like, oh, I can't do this again, and I don't know what to tell them what's wrong with me because I don't understand what's wrong with me. So at that point, I was just like, let's fight. That was kind of my mentality going into the fight. And after, I just thought, regardless if it was with the UFC or not, it was my first fight in a new contract. So obviously, I could have gotten released at any point anyway. But I didn't want to fight again unless I felt like I had a grasp on things, on my health, on my nutrition, on my training, on my approach to things. Like I didn't have a grasp on anything. And it makes you feel really powerless and be like, I'm training so hard. Why is this not working out? And after that fight, Well, it was a bit strange because the whole week you weren't really sure if you were gonna fight or not because it was like, yeah, and in Brazil, COVID wasn't so like mainstream. I knew about it because my dad had watched some news from different countries, and he was like, "Oh, there's this COVID thing happening," and I'm like, "Ugh, my dad's being paranoid." Whatever, dude. And then the week comes and they're like, "Yeah, the government is talking about shutting everything down," and I'm like, wait, what's going on? It was really strange. Like the whole atmosphere. You went from one day to the next. Everybody's like, "Get away from me! Like you're a zombie and you're gonna infect them." It was absolutely insane. And even walking out, I just like I kept looking around and I'm like, "There is nobody here. What is this?" It didn't become kind of like desensitized yet, and it was just happening on something that I thought wasn't really a thing. So that was very, very strange. But yeah, after that, I just thought, listen, I didn't think I was gonna quit, if that makes sense, because that just doesn't seem like the person I am. And at this age, it's not retirement, it's quitting. You know, I'm 27. You didn't retire, dude, you quit. Things didn't work out and you didn't fix them and you quit. And I just thought there's no point of me going in, it's like it's literally stupidity. Going in doing the same things and not getting the results and then just doing it again thinking you have more willpower this time. So I thought unless I have everything fixed, I'm not going to step back in there, and I believe that I now do.
What were the steps you took to get your health back in order? Because that's what I think was the major factor, right? The last couple of years
Mm.
before you kind of stepped away.
Yeah, well, I think the first 6 months I set myself back because I kept wanting to train and not really being able to. When I mean my health was bad, I mean like I was staring at a wall crying every day, every single day. Like it was pretty bad. Um, and then on top of that, you have me trying to be a fighter, trying to be an athlete, and trying to train over it, and just making it worse. And obviously, I came to England because of Dan, my now husband, and he was like, you need to stop, you need to stop, and he would just monitor me, like we have a gym in the house, so even though it was like coronavirus and everything was shut, I could still like come in and train, and I was trying to get in secret sessions, and he would just like lock the gym, like you need to stop. And it wasn't until that moment that I just gave control and was like, you know what, if I don't fight, whatever, that's fine. I need to be okay with everyday life, and I'm not right now. So it had to get really serious for me to stop. And that's a bit dangerous, and I kind of wish I had a bit more guidance before, and I wish I would have listened to my body a bit before, but it took a bit of just stopping, of just not training for like those first 6, 7, 8 months, and then I slowly built everything up. I had so many great doctors help me out, and I'm not working with Paul Reed, famously Patty Pimlet's nutritionist coach. So if you can get him in shape, you get
Yeah,
anybody in
yeah,
shape.
yeah.
Yeah, he's been great, man. I was
Yeah.
like having bagels yesterday. Yeah, he's honestly he's phenomenal, and the entire team. It's really been a team effort to get me back into training. Um, and yeah, I could not be more grateful for everybody.
What was going on though, like with your health exactly?
So after I fought in Uruguay, I had several concussions back to back, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say this because it just sounds pretty. It just goes to show you how little I knew about stuff, but I didn't know they were concussions. I just thought, yeah, concussion is like car accident or football players. That's about it. And because I had them in a short amount of time, in a short period, it got a lot worse. So if you have one and you take the adequate time to rest, you're fine after. But if you have one and then 2 days later you have another one, and then 3 weeks later you have another one, and then a week after that you have another one, you're in some serious trouble. And for women, it takes them a lot longer to recover than for men. And something that I was told was like, yeah, it could take anywhere from 3 months to 10 years. I was like,
Wow.
okay. What? I was like, I'm gonna be stuck like this for 10 years. Yeah. So like I said, I didn't really know what was going on. So I would, my body first of all bloated, crazy. Like I was barely really eating a lot of calories, and my weight went up about 10 pounds. And then I was like, oh my goodness, what is going on? And if you see, I had a canceled bout in Sao Paulo, but that was at 125, and it was just, I hadn't even started weight cutting or anything. It's just the migraine started happening. It was crazy. I was hospitalized, and I was taken out, and I thought, well, maybe I can recover. This is how, maybe I can recover for in a month's time, and obviously I couldn't. So then I thought, okay, I'll just solve this problem by taking a fight on a higher weight class. So then, I don't have any of these issues, and that wasn't, that didn't work out either, obviously. Um, but yeah, after that, it all healed.
Yeah, yeah,
Took some time, but it healed.
it's great to hear that because yeah, fighters can be their own worst enemy,
Mm.
because a fighter th- fighter like they fight everything even if it's not the proper things to fight against, right? They'll fight against it, and like you said, you seem to have the right people around you now. You have the guidance and the people that I don't know if I don't want to say people didn't care about you before, but it seems like the people that are around you care about you more and more about your health more than anything, right? Which is great to see that. And now you're making your way back to the octagon. And this game, it's crazy because 3 years ago you were 24ish. Now you're 27.
Mhm.
You're still so young. You know what I mean? Like, to return. And in this game, they forget people so quick. So do you feel like this maybe is just a way for you to get a fresh start? Like, because there's so many new fans now. Like, MMA was different back then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was signed when I was 20, so that's maybe why. Uh, it's. Oh, I was speaking to Tom that does all the bios for the UFC, and he's like, "It's crazy. You're 27, but I feel like you've been around forever." and and yeah, I mean, there is new sports. I mean, the new fans. There's a new opportunity to grasp these fans, and it's a bit brutal because you can be on like a 10 fight win streak, you lose twice, and they're already like, oh, you're garbage. But if you win 3 times straight, you're like goat potential. You're just like, what? Sports, there's literally 30 on the glove. It's for the amount of years that
Yeah.
the UFC has been there. How is there going to be a goat at
Yeah.
this point in the sport? Like, calm down.
Yeah.
um but I just feel like it's really cool to have that aspect of it, to have so much more people. Like, I was speaking to Dan, and he's like, when I was doing sports, the whole thing was to convince people that this wasn't a barbaric thing that should be illegal. And now you guys are getting to go out there, and people are like, oh, this is amazing. They're skilled, talented athletes. So that's a big difference that has happened. And now, especially with how coronavirus didn't allow any other sports, and the UFC was able to continue, it brought a lot more eyes into it. So that's great. And with a lot more people, you're obviously going to have to filter out some some that want to watch the sports, and others that just want to, like, you know crap on people.
Well, this, I guess, is part of sports. Every sport has their the trashy side, so to say.
Yeah.
Your upcoming opponent, Juliana Miller, she's gonna make her UFC debut. Young, hungry prospect. What are your thoughts on her and the fighting style that she possesses?
I really like her as a fighter. She's like, I watched her in the Tough, and yeah, I just like her personality. Her, like, okay, I'm an underdog. I'm gonna show you. That's something to really admire from her. She keeps going. If things aren't going her way, she doesn't get discouraged. She continues until she finds a way to get a victory. And I mean, her only loss, she went and she won that in the Tough. So it's somebody that you can't take lightly. She's a tenacious girl. She has great grappling, and a great spirit.
You're also known to be able to grapple somewhat, and like you said, she does have great grappling. That kind of, I believe, 10th planet jujitsu. Um, what are your thoughts on just being able to get in there and being able to grapple against someone like that? Do you feel like the game is gonna, or the fight is gonna get to the ground eventually?
Yeah, I do feel like that. I feel like, especially with female flyweights, if you look at if you look at the finishes due to divisions and weight categories, females tend to have more finishes by grappling. It's not so much like a knockout sport. So fights do tend to get to the ground, whether it's you slip on something, or a takedown happens, or they even drag you back in there. So I do expect her to try and take me down, or try and be on the ground with me. Of course, that's her strong suit. That's what she's known as, and that's kind of what you want to get, like a crazy submission, so you can get 50 G's on your debut. What else?
Yeah,
Um,
you want to beg for the 50,000, like
yeah,
it's wild to me. It still happens.
yeah, of course. Because if you think about it, she's coming from tough. The From other fighters that I've spoken on the tough, like the payment isn't even like half decent, and she hasn't fought in a while. She's gonna go for something crazy.
Now, for your training camp, like how have you formulated that? Is
I feel like this is the first time I'm training as a professional athlete. Yeah, that's bad. No, in Canada before, when I fought in Uruguay, there I had Ryan Diaz, and he was great. He was honestly phenomenal, and I wish I could have gone back after, but visas, man, visas are not an easy thing when you are from South America. They just look at your passport and they're like, no, that's gonna be a no for you. So yeah, I couldn't go back to Canada, and I was pretty sad, because that's when I was like, oh, this is great. I'm like, this is not a training camp where I've like injured, or anything bad's happened. It's been pretty well planned, and then I didn't get that after, obviously, because I was dealing with all my health issues. But before the following fight, I had like 30 minutes of shadow boxing a day, was what the max I could do. So I'm pretty sure it's gonna be better than that. I read some of the comments like, my grandma has better cardio than you, and I was like, dude, I do not doubt it. Honestly, I do not doubt it. But in this, I've had Dan Hardy, which is, I mean, if you're gonna go for an MMA analyst, you got the best in the world like right next to you at all times. And him and his team have had Paul Reed, like I said, working nutrition, working S&C, which he has warned me that tomorrow he's gonna make me cry. It's gonna be so intense. So I've been like all week, like, ooh, the training's coming. But I've also gone to different places. Like I've gone to GB Top Team. I've trained with Brad Pickett, and Ash Grimshaw, which is a phenomenal name, if I may say so. They have loads of girls there. I think the biggest female team in all of Europe, and majority of the girls that I was trained with have a fight coming up. Like Chanel Doy has a fight coming up today, and she's an amateur that's won like every competition under the sun in Muay Thai. Phenomenal kickboxing, and yeah, I have Kate, who's in Cage Warriors the day before, and Manuela, who fought not too long ago. So, and Claire, who's fighting in Ryzen. Just all of the girls fighting in a sort of similar time. So it's everybody was really focused. Everybody was showing up to training and was showing up with like game. And that's also important, because sometimes you can have all this technical things and you don't have somebody to work with, or somebody who gives you a realistic feedback or perspective on what's actually working.
yeah, it seems like everything's running. The engine is fueled up, right? That's what it feels
Finally.
like. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel
finally.
like during fight week you'll be asked continuously, like, there's, you've been on the long layoff. What's different about you? But I want to switch it up and ask you, what's the same about you? What's been consistent in your life?
Well, I guess no matter what you throw at me, I'm gonna find a way to come back from it. That's consistent, and that's something that I quite like about myself. That if things don't go my way, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out.
How do you want to perform though in your return? Like, do you have anything to prove to anyone or to yourself?
Not really. I feel a lot of the fighters like come back and they'll be like shushing the crowd or something, and like, oh, I told you, and man, I just want to go, and I want to show the martial artist that I am, and I feel like I haven't been able to. And that's kind of more my goal, because I've worked so hard for so long, and it hasn't showed, and I think it's about time for it to come out. And obviously, like I want to make the team and everybody that's helped me proud, especially Dan Hardy. I mean, he's somebody who's been there. If like he didn't care if I fought or not, if I came back, in that aspect. And he's been so dedicated with the amount of work that he has on a daily basis, and to be able to he just put everything to the side just to help me. I could not be more grateful for him. He is incredible. And just for that to come out and to show more than anything, not really to prove anybody anything, because I mean, they can think what they like. This is my journey, this is my love for martial arts, and this is what I love to do.
I think that's also another battle with fighters as well, is like, what you just explained. You don't have nothing to prove to anyone, you know? You fight for yourself, you know what I mean? I think some fighters do get caught up in that, like proving the doubters wrong, proving the haters wrong, because it's become a sport
They
like
don't
that.
care.
They don't care.
Like, honestly, dude, they'll jump on a different bandwagon for a different
Yeah,
fighter in a second. They
yeah,
don't care.
yeah.
It's like it's about you, man.
Mm.
It's about you. It's about the team around you. It's about the journey that you all have together. It's amazing, and I feel like if you lose sight of that, you get sick of it.
One last thing before I let you go. Outside of fighting, the last couple of years I've been watching you do media for the UFC, for Full Reptile, commentating. You're doing a cooking show. You're just doing all kinds of stuff. Like, how has it been juggling all of that?
Well, that has been what has helped me kind of so much, because doing all of that, I've been able to sit down and analyze different people, how they approach things, what they do, what works for them, what doesn't, what worked for them in one fight and didn't in another, what got them caught, what, like, all of these different things that kind of add to your fight IQ. So then it's like, if you learn other people's mistakes, you're less likely, like, you don't have to go make them as well. So that has been such a help, as well as staying in the sport without having to compete. I've been out for 3 years, but it's not like I went out and did something completely different and it's like, okay, I'm back. I've been in the sport just without competition, but analyzing it every single day, and that's been extremely helpful. And your show has been extremely helpful for my Pigs podcast. You're like my secret weapon. I always look you up and see what interviews you did, so I have like insider information for things. So it's really awesome to be on the show now.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I hope to have you on the show many more times in the future. Um, March 18th, UFC 286, London. Go into descriptions, download the AllStar app. Veronica, thank you so much for the time. You kind of made me nervous a little bit. Usually I don't get nervous interviewing fighters, but then, not many fighters are watching my
Nervous.
interviews.
What did you think? I was gonna like, well, I have this whole note on things that I do not like.
Nah, you know how
No,
it is.
man, they're great. They're great. I do like them. I do appreciate it, because I tried to do interviews a little bit, and just coordinating with the fighters, I just gave up. That's it. And I don't normally give up on things, but I gave up on that. I'm just like, listen, you are not Beyonce. You are not a rock star. It should not be this difficult to set this up with you. So, I honestly appreciate you helping get fighters' personalities
Mhm.
and things out there, because not always, you don't always have this like media to push, or a media team kind of helping you push and finding you these things, and you go out of your way on your own time and crazy hours, just you're really helping the sport. So I want to thank you.